Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining Steve and I today for 5 critical steps for accounting professionals and bookkeepers to successfully raise their rates without losing clients. And what I really have seen from the accounting professionals that I have had the opportunity to work closely with, to be able to speak with at conferences, is the fact that you absolutely do meaningful work for your clients, but a lot of times you fail to recognize the value of your work, and as a result of that, you're actually leaving money on the table. You're settling for less than you need to. And this isn't about being greedy. It's about just understanding the value of what you have to offer and what really matters most to your clients. So if you have been thinking about raising your rates for some time now, but you just aren't sure exactly how to do it and you've been postponing that decision, or it might be that the only way that you can make more money is to be able to devote more time to your business. It's possible that you don't like having conversations about prices with your clients, and so you've just hesitated on doing that. You've delayed it for quite a while now. Then you are in the absolute right place, because we're going to cover all those things today. Part of what I have seen from my research, my education, continuing to receive business coaching, working closely with accounting professionals, is that basically everything you really need to know about how to value price your services is available on the internet. And the truth is that the majority of accounting professionals I know, in fact, the ones that I work with, it's not solely about the money. Yes, the money is absolutely important. It does matter. However, you want to work with clients who deeply value what you have to offer. You want to be able to really make a difference for your clients and being able to serve them. It feels very, very purposeful for you. So you're really doing something you care deeply about. You know you're making a difference, and the money is secondary. But what I see is that the amount of profit you bring into your business, as well as the revenue you bring in, is simply a metric of how effective you are with making a difference for your clients. So I absolutely get the fact that you don't want to be greedy, you don't want to take advantage of people. However, you deserve to have a business that is prosperous and supports your lifestyle, as opposed to one that drains the life out of you.
Mm-hmm. How true.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, do you want to share a little bit about yourself first?
Well, I'm a business coach, and I specialize in business relationships and also leadership for businesses.
And a little bit about me is that Steve and I, when we moved here from Miami, Florida to Oregon in 1997, we had a counseling agency. We worked side by side. I was definitely on the front line, and as a result of that, there was a huge price that I had to pay for it, because I was working evenings, working with clients, and then on weekends, a lot of times I was doing the administrative work to make sure that we maintained our records accurately for state regulations. I would say as a result of that, I was on the verge of burnout after doing that with Steve for 12 years, because I had to sacrifice time with family. I missed a lot of dinners. I missed a lot of the kids' sports things. Fortunately, Steve was able to step away and go to them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
after a while, it was just too much of a toll. I wasn't passionate about what I was doing. I absolutely loved my clients, but the work was just taking too much of a toll. It was too much of a sacrifice. And that's when I started to look for those next steps. And in 2009, gradually started to transform my business away from being a therapist into the business coaching with a focus on accounting professionals. So that is a little bit about how I got to do what I'm doing now. These are some of the companies that I've either been affiliated with or have spoken at. And what we'll go ahead and cover today is the #1 pricing mistake, the formula for being able to raise your rates, and then how to be able to convert existing clients into your new pricing structure. We are absolutely going to give you as much as we possibly can during the short time we have together today. If you feel like you would have like to have a further conversation, be able to know more about how to be able to put this into play in your business, I'll give you a way to be able to follow up with us before we sign out today. So we're going to just leap in and get started with the number one pricing mistake.
Mm-hmm. So Lauren, value is really sometimes really difficult to describe, especially when it comes to pricing. How can you explain the relationship between value and price?
I am going to give you an example with a bottle of water. If you got a bottle of water from Costco and you wanted to sell it, and you were just selling bottles of water at your office for your clients, how much would a client pay for a bottle of water? And if you want to add it into the chat, we'd love to see what you think the client would pay for a bottle of water.
Just doing it right now.
Okay.
And it's in. Okay. So.
And is anybody sharing with us how much they think their clients would pay?
I got $1.
$1. Yeah, that's about what I would pay also, max, right? Because you probably have a water cooler right next to it.
I got $1.05.
$1. Oh, now we're auctioning off that bottle of water.
There you go. Do
Okay.
I hear 2.5?
That would be airport prices. And so now think about if that same exact person had been wandering aimlessly in the desert in the August heat for 3 days. They don't know whether they're close to being out and finding their way out, or they're going to still be wandering for a couple more days, but they can just feel the life draining out of them. And suddenly you show up, you have that same exact bottle of water, same labeling, same amount of ounces in front of that person, and you are willing to share that bottle of water. You're willing to sell that bottle of water to that person. How much do you think that person, after 3 days of wandering around in the hot desert, would pay for that bottle of water?
Okay, so now what would you pay for that bottle of water? Oh, $5 to $7.
Only
Boy, you don't really value. This
you
is
guys
like
are price sensitive.
Yeah, this is like life and death at this point.
Yeah, so you like feel the life draining out of you. That's only worth $7.
I'd go a lot higher than that.
So I know. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Well, I was just going to say that, it seems like it's really difficult for accounting professionals to raise their rates. And what are the first steps that really gets them started and moving in this process? Well,
but before I get there, I just want to wrap up with this, is that even if you pay $5 to $7, that's 5 to 7 times what you would have originally gotten from a client in your office. And it wasn't that the water changed. It was that the urgency, the need, the desire shifted. And that's all from the perspective of the client. It changes nothing about what it is that you are offering. And that's why I want you to look at the fact that pricing is very, very fluid. It depends on the needs, the desires, the wants of what the client is seeking, as opposed to how you get the job done. And so, can you repeat your question again, Steve?
Sure. So, I get, asked a lot about, it seems like it's so difficult for accounting professionals to raise their rates. So what are some of the first steps that they can do to get started? What can they do at this point?
Right. Well, the very first thing is success is messy. When it comes to money, you're good being in someone else's money and working with their money and their profits all day long. However, when it comes to your own pricing, that's a little bit of a different conversation, because you're too close to the source of being able to raise your rates. What I really want to say is that your prices a lot of time are a reflection of your self-worth, as well as your values and your beliefs regarding money. So it really is something that starts on the inside, and then once we're able to get things aligned in the inside so you don't feel like you're contradicting other core values, then we can go ahead and start to move forward with the pricing conversation. And I will say that a lot of times what I see with accounting professionals is the self-talk. And I would love to hear from some of you, one of the things that have gone through your head or that you've been thinking about or worrying about that keeps you from increasing your fees, even though it might have been on your mind for a while.
Just putting that into the chat.
Oh, that's fine. And they can just chat away and answer without you having to put the question there also.
All right.
Part of what I've seen with conversations that I've had with bookkeepers and enrolled agents, accountants, is really the fact that if you raise your rates, will you possibly be losing an ideal client who really can't afford to work with you? And you know what they can afford or not afford because you're in their books and you know their numbers. Will it be fine? So you're worried about them. You're worried about whether it's going to be okay for your business also. And that sometimes raising your rates feels like a really big, drastic step. Were there other comments that came up in there, Steve?
Clients that haven't had a rate increase in 5 years, how do you justify the raise in fee?
Okay, great. So that's one of the questions also.
That's from
part of,
Brian.
Okay, and so Brian, part of what we're looking at is, and I'll answer that really quickly right here, is that you know so much more now than you did when you were working with that client 5 years. You've gained expertise, knowledge, just from the fact that you've been doing this for an additional 5 years. The other thing is, how are you pricing? Are you doing a fixed price or are you doing hourly rates?
Hourly rates.
Okay, then one of the things to actually look at is that even though you've gained expertise over the last 5 years, you actually are earning less than you were 5 years ago because of the fact that technology has made your job a lot faster. So if you're charging for time, it commoditizes what you offer, and you're actually making less money to do the same amount of work because you're charging for time and technology has speeded it up. The other part is because of the fact that you have more expertise than you did 5 years ago, when certain things that maybe threw you off 5 years ago come up, you now know how to work through them and you're getting to that solution or being able to complete the project at a faster rate than you did before. And that's just something to think about, is actually when you're charging by the hour, you're making less money for the same amount, for the same job than you did before because you have more expertise and more apps, better technology. So it actually makes things faster for you. What was there another comment that you wanted to share, Steve?
Some clients think they can just hire someone in-house to do the same job that we do.
You're right. And that's because at this point, what your work is being commoditized as opposed to leading with your expertise. And as a result of that, it's up to you to educate them on the difference. Because I know that you have the ability to step up as a CFO. I know from previous clients that we've shared, Brian, that you do so much more than simple accounting. You partner with your clients in order to really help them advance their business forward also. And that goes beyond what anybody in-house would do. But I think that you're raising some really important points because it's something that we have to get comfortable with before you can go ahead and raise your rates. But the bottom line is that when you're charging by the hour, you just have to work harder or grow your team in order to be able to make more money. And a lot of times you end up remaining stuck with non-ideal clients who really aren't a good fit for where you are right now. And when you're working with non-ideal clients who are more price sensitive and don't recognize the full value of what you have to offer, it could lead to resentment and burnout on your part. And that's not good for you. It's not going to be a sustainable way to move forward for the long term.
Absolutely.
And was there something you wanted to add, Steve?
No, I'm actually agreeing with you as far as the mindset piece. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that now or if you want to just wait a minute.
I think that we touched on it a little bit, but if
Uh-huh.
things come up
Yep.
along the way in the chat that someone wants me to answer a little bit more, we can absolutely go there.
Hmm.
And the mindset is actually underlying everything that we're talking about. Because
Right.
you have to
Right.
have it with pricing or raising your fees, you have to have it aligned with your values, with your beliefs, with what it is that you know that you're doing to partner with your clients before you can actually bring it to the table and have that value conversation. So
Hmm.
the piece that you're talking about is really you have to be in that right frame of mind. And the way to do it is to set yourself up as an expert. And when you set
Right.
yourself up as an expert, then we're separating your fees from time. And therefore, when you're coming to the table as an expert or trusted advisor, it's not about what you do. Your clients really don't care that much about it. It's really about what you know. And that's where your value lies, but tends to be overlooked or hidden from the services that you offer your clients. So
Hmm.
this is really looking at how do we shift you from commoditizing what you do, where you're just in the same pool as everybody else who offers the same services and reports as you
Right.
do or outcomes, and really lead with your knowledge and your area of expertise.
Hmm. You're
So,
absolutely right, Lauren.
mhm.
And this mindset piece is really important because many of our clients, they realize that they really are overthinking things and they're ready to finally get out of their own way. And I know
Mhm.
that you have a five-step system for raising your rates with existing clients. Why don't you talk about that at this point? I think that would be great.
Absolutely. I'm going to just lead with the fact that 57% of accounting professionals undercharge for their services. So that means over half of the people that are joining us, that are tuning in, you're undercharging for
Mhm.
what you have to offer, the value that you bring to the table. And part of it is, once again, the fact that you're overthinking this, that you're leading with what you do as opposed to, which makes it more about you than really leading with what it is that your client really needs and the benefit and outcome that they get. So
Mhm.
the first part of looking at this formula is discerning whether you're interested or committed. And if you're simply interested in increasing your rates, increasing your profitability, because you can raise your rates and not necessarily be more profitable, but if you're really looking at increasing your profitability and the value that you bring, then you will only do what's convenient. As soon as it starts to get uncomfortable, it feels a little bit too risky for you, you're going to back out, you're going to postpone it, you're going to get busy with something else. Whereas the accounting professionals who are fully committed to being that expert, to being a trusted advisor, to leading what's in the best interest of the client no matter what, then they are going to do absolutely what's necessary, even though it might be beyond their comfort zone. And I will let you know that neither one is right or wrong. It's about being brutally honest with where you are. And if you're not satisfied with whether you're interested or committed, you can go ahead and change that and raise the bar for yourself, or you can lower it, whichever one is better for you. But commitment means doing whatever it is you need to do, no matter what, and that you want to stretch yourself because you have to grow beyond your current comfort zone. The other thing I believe is important is understanding what it is that your clients truly value. And there's three different types of value that we're touching on here. The first value is the primary, the obvious value. And that could be something like you improving cash flow. They now know exactly where the numbers are in their business, where they didn't have that accurate information before. It could be that there are money leaks and you're helping to plug up those money leaks. And I would love to hear from you. What do you think is the value that you bring to your clients with your service? What would be that first line value?
Mhm. Yeah, so I posted what results do you get, do your clients get from your services?
And after think
Accurate financials. Okay.
accurate
Okay.
financials. And so one of the things to look at with accurate financials is that's important. You're delivering important information, but what happens because they now have accurate financials?
Mm-hmm.
And accurate financials is probably more important to you than it is to them. But as a result of having accurate financials, what is it that they could possibly do that they couldn't do without having that information?
Mm.
And that starts to look at the secondary value. The secondary value is what's possible because of the fact that you're giving those accurate financials, you're helping to plug up the money leaks. Was there another comment that was given as to the results?
Obtain bank financing.
Okay, great. And if they can now obtain bank financing, what's possible for them? Because they'll have more cash reserves at hand. Is it that they can then keep their business flowing during the slow season when there's the ebbs as opposed to the flow? Is it possible that they can invest in that next piece of technology that's going to help them speed up a process? Or maybe they can bring on a valued team member that they couldn't bring on before. So those are some of the things to think about that is really the value of what you do to them. And it's secondary. So it's not that first line of what you do. It's now what's possible because you did that first line. And some of the things could be maybe hiring that staff. What about because you cleaned up some of the money leaks and they're more profitable now without having to work harder, they could possibly add on another staff member. Could they maybe now take a much needed vacation that they've been postponing with their family for the last 3 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a secondary benefit that might happen because you're helping them get a handle on their finances and their cash flow. And the third type of value you offer is what's called the hidden value. The hidden value is what is the cost of them possibly remaining with this problem because they chose not to work with you? And it's a little bit of a trickier answer, but one of the things might happen is that they might continue to make costly mistakes because they didn't realize how some of these things they were doing just weren't profitable and were actually taking a drain as opposed to adding profit. Or that they could have continued with a credit card that had higher interest rates than you helping get credit cards that had a better interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve, were there some other answers or responses that came up in the chat?
No, that was it.
Okay, great. And this is someone that I had the privilege of working with. When we first met, Justin mentioned to me that he was really interested in working with me. We actually knew each other for years, and he's been wanting to do for quite a couple of years, and finally the situation was right. But the thing that was a concern is he also had the opportunity to buy the building that his firm was in. And he thought that he could either work with me or buy the building. He had very binary thinking, and it was an either or scenario. And because he was able to voice that concern with me, we had a conversation about it. And I told him that I don't really subscribe to a zero-sum game of either or. I look for the and. How could he possibly make that investment of working with me so that we can change his business model around and buy the building for his firm? And we talked about that and the potential. And fortunately, you know, he considered it, he weighed the options, and he made the decision for us to work closely together. As a result of that, he changed his pricing, his business model. He started to really niche in a very specific, lucrative area. And he bought the building that his firm was in 8 months later. And then maybe another year or so, he started looking at buying another building as well. And just to recognize that it's not necessarily an either or, it's about an and, because he was able to move forward at a faster rate than if he would have tried doing it on his own. He might never have done some of these things on his own as far as value pricing. I think that he actually increased the value of his services, going from charging by the hour into value-based pricing. In the beginning, like maybe 2 to 3 times he raised his fees right in the beginning. And then I know that he's continued to increase them each and every year. Steve, is there anything else coming up in the chat?
No, the last thing I posted was, where do you have either or thinking?
Okay. And one of the things that he was able to do with value-based pricing, which I would encourage you to do also, is recognize that you have several different types of clients. You have maybe those startups, so the ones that are more price sensitive. And then you have where the majority of your clients fall, the mean or the average. And then you have some that have some special requests. They want to have more access to you. And what you want to do is be able to create packages, which is bundling different aspects of your services together to meet the different needs of these different clients. You want to have what I call a silver package, and that is like the bare bones basic package. This is going to be a fit for the clients that are very price sensitive. They want to continue working with you, but they can't fully invest in the next level package because their revenues aren't there yet. So the silver is for the price sensitive clients. It's very, very basic, but it bundles a certain amount of services together. And then the gold is really where your most popular packages. This is going to offer the services that really your clients need to be able to keep their books in order, to be able to keep their accounting up to date. And it's all bundled together with one set fee, as opposed to every single time you do a different service for them, you're charging them more from an a la carte rate. And then, as I mentioned, you're going to have a diamond package. This is more like I see your VIP package, where basically they're paying more because they see the value of having more access to you, or they have specific requirements, like they want you to come to their place of business to work, as opposed to doing online bookkeeping or accounting. So those are the 3 different ways that I would look at packaging your services when you start to shift from billing into value-based pricing. And once you create those packages, then you want to start to have value conversations with your clients. This would be with potential clients that are interested in using you, as well as with shifting your current clients over to this new model. When you have these conversations, it's different than the consultations that you typically have, because the first thing that you need to do is you really want to make sure you come at it from the place of being a trusted advisor, where you're focusing on their needs as opposed to how you work with them. And the value conversation is a little bit counterintuitive, because typically you're talking about how you work, you might talk about the different types of reports, you might talk about the different subscriptions that are needed, whether they use Receipt Bank or HubDoc, or whether you're on Xero or Infusionsoft with Intuit and QuickBooks. You talk about those different aspects. But with the value conversation, once again, you really want to focus on what their wants are. And their wants could be professional. What is it that they want to aspire to? But it could be personal also. How would moving their business in this direction where they're more profitable, that they have growth, make a difference in your life, in their life? So it's very, very counterintuitive, because it's very client-centric as opposed to being focused on you. The other thing is that I teach the 70-30 rule. And this means that the client or the potential client is talking 70% of the time, and you're talking only 30. And you might wonder, how in a consult do you only talk 30% of the time? And the way is to ask great questions. When you ask great questions that are really focused on their wants and their needs and where they're stuck, it shows the value of what you have to offer, and it positions you as a trusted advisor. By questioning them about how they see things and how they want things to be, you are positioning yourself as that expert, and you're having a very different conversation with them than any other accounting professional is going to have. It starts to set you apart, and it starts to make them see the importance of working with you, not because you're the cheapest, but because you're the best for meeting their needs. And in order to be able to do this, you want to first do this with new clients and practice having that value conversation, offering packages with new clients. And once you become comfortable with it, then you want to do this with your current clients, starting to transition them from hourly billing into value-based pricing and offering them packages. And that's why I put up the picture of Luke and Yoda, is because I want you to be Yoda. I want you to be that trusted advisor, that resource that goes beyond the compliance work that you do, that is maybe a connector, and you know things, you have insights that can really help them move forward at a faster pace than if they try to figure it out on their own. And this way, you're really focusing once again on what is the best in the best interest of the client. You continue to be very client-centric. If you find that from this value conversation, this consultation, that the person you're speaking with is a great fit for you, you want to work with them, then you go ahead and extend an invitation discussing the packages of how you work with them. Now, the really interesting thing is that simply because someone is having a consult with you and wants to work with you doesn't mean that they're a right fit for your firm and that you want to work with them. So you do not have to offer an invitation for your services with everybody that simply has a conversation with you. And the other thing is, as you're shifting this business model, if you have some non-ideal clients that you've been thinking about firing for a long, long time and didn't know how to, this is the perfect time, because you can simply let them know that you're changing your business model and that your services are no longer fit for them, and give them maybe a 30-day window of being able to move on and finding someone else to do the work for them. The other thing to look at is when you're having this conversation based upon value as opposed to prices, there will be some common objections because it's just something new and your clients aren't used to looking at it this way. Plus, people don't like change. So of course, there's going to be a little bit of pushback. Don't let it throw you off or have it be the end of a conversation. What you actually want to do is be prepared for the objection and recognize that they just need more information about how this works and why this matters to them. And I learned this lesson the hard way. When I first started out doing business coaching, I met with an enrolled agent who was interested in working with me. We had a great connection, really good rapport. I could see exactly how I could help him with his business. And then it came time to talking about making the investment and how I offered services. And what happened at that point is I could feel within me a switch happening where suddenly my focus shifted from being all about them to now it was about me, because it was a relatively new, business coaching was relatively new for me at that point. I had some bills to pay. I could use the money from a new client. That's really the truth. And this person was able to feel the switch in our connection and that somehow the rapport broke. And he asked me, you know, why is it that I wanted to work with him? I was very transparent. I told him I thought that I would be able to help him and that I could use the money. I could I could take on a new client. And he said, well, let me think about it. And that's when I knew that I had actually killed the sale of having this really great new client. And it was all because of me. It had absolutely nothing to do with him. And when I went home that night, I was just so devastated and disappointed in myself. I felt like I needed to take a warm shower and just cleanse myself a bit. And we had a follow-up conversation in about 2 days. He decided to move in a new direction, which did not fully surprise me, but it was a disappointment. And it was at that moment that I decided never, ever, ever again to have that happen, where I made this energetic switch and broke the rapport because I suddenly shifted the focus to me as opposed to them. And the way to be able to do that is to be able to detach from my personal gain and be able to really continue looking at what is in their best interest. And sometimes their best interest isn't necessarily about choosing a package to work with you. It's about the fact that you're not the best fit for them, or they might not be the best fit for you. So you really want to really stay in service to that client as opposed to making it about you.
Mm-hmm. How true that is.
Yeah, and Steve, I'm sure that that's some of the things that you've seen with our clients also, is how to be able to detach during this really important conversation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
With Ingrid, she is a bookkeeper. When I first met her, she just transitioned out of a home-based business into an office for her agency. She was pretty new she was great at bookkeeping, but she was new at the business development part for her agency. And what we did is we focused on starting to define what her specialty was, who it was that she really worked best with. And over time, what we found is she wanted to specialize in working with entrepreneurs that were in the adventure travel industry. So they did adventure travel tourism.
Mm-hmm.
And she absolutely loved what they had to offer because there's a adventurous side to her as well. So she started to be able to niche. We created her packages, talked about how to have those enrolling conversations. And over the course of the year, basically, she was able to let go about 30% of her clients, and she actually doubled her income. The other thing that happened, though, is Ingrid started to become an industry spokesperson for two different niches. One is for bookkeeping professionals. She has a podcast now called Ask the Bookkeeper, and you might have heard of it. But basically, Ingrid wanted to take the standard of professionalism for bookkeeping higher to a higher standard. And she's become named one of the top 40 under 40 accounting professionals when she's not even an accountant. So she's been able to raise the bar for bookkeeping. And the other thing is she's now being invited to speak at tourism travel conferences because of the fact that she's really been able to define that specific niche. And we're going to go into the last section of how to convert your existing clients.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the strategy. I mean, I would like to see some action steps, and how do you coach your clients when they're ready to get started? And you've earned the right to raise your fees. So how do you do that?
Well, I think the first thing is, if I challenge you that by the end of this training, you ought to double or triple your fees, what comes up for you?
Mm-hmm.
And would love to hear some people share in the chat what some of those immediate thoughts were that came up in their minds. And the first thing I want to say is that if you want to raise your fees, you don't need to ask permission. This is your business and you get to make the rules. And therefore, your pricing is, as we mentioned, mindset first. And it has to be approached in a way that feels of service, that's genuine and authentic for you. So this is about starting the conversation about value, making it client-centric, and then beginning to look at how to separate your fees from time. And that's by offering packages. Steve, has anybody shared in the chat about what came up for them?
Heartburn.
Heartburn. Absolutely.
That's from Brian.
I can understand that, but Brian, you absolutely deserve to be well paid for what you do for your clients. The next thing is knowing how to communicate your new rates. What I suggest is to be able to start out with having a client-centered letter or email that you send out to your clients. And it focuses on the fact, it leads with the fact that you're changing your business model. You also want to make sure that it's about them. And that's by noting some of the benefits. So some of the benefits of value-based pricing is that it's easier for them to budget because it's a fixed cost. There's no surprise bill any longer at the end of the month. The other thing is that rather than having a la carte services like the 1099s, which become that raise the bill at the end of January, it's included in the package because you know that they need it every single year. So you just build it into the packages that you offer them. Another thing that you want to focus on is maybe delivery outcomes as opposed to time. So how do they benefit because of this change? That maybe something is going to be more efficient, you made something more effective for them, you made something easier as far as access goes. And some of the things that you might want to focus on might have to do with cash flow for them. It could be about plugging up some of those money leaks that you have. It depends on the needs of your clients. And the other thing that happens at this point with sending out this letter is that you send that client-centric letter out to the clients that you're interested in continuing to work with. The ones that are not a good fit for you any longer, this is the time to let them know that you're changing your business model and that they have 30 days of your services before they need to, and they have 30 days to really find someone else to take on their books or do their accounting for them. So you give them 30 days, it's more than enough time. Everything's in order because you've been doing the work for them this whole time, but it's a transition period and it's a natural transition to let those clients go. After you start to have this, send out this email or this letter, then what you want to do is start to schedule a conversation with your different clients. And this is the value conversation where you focus on what it is that they want from continuing to work with you. And let's just kind of review some of the things that we have touched on. So Steve, did you want to kind of give that overview?
Yeah, I mean, I think what comes up a lot is about what are some of the objections that you think your clients are going to have when you have these conversations with them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the other thing to look at is with the value conversation, you want to focus on those needs. You want to know what the primary benefits are of them working with you. What are some of those secondary benefits that happen because you did that specific action step for them, as well as focusing on maybe the fact is they'll be able to have some of their personal time back. They won't have to sacrifice so much. So really focus on what they want professionally as well as personally. Looking at some metrics, what are the KPIs or key performance indicators that both you can agree on over the course of the next 12 months or so to see if you're really hitting those markers or not. Looking at why this matters to them so that you really know what's important to them instead of them having to adapt to you, you're really adjusting to them. And look at, and also during this conversation, I would look at what are maybe some overlooked insights that you know would make a difference for their business, and you just haven't shared that with them yet, or they haven't been ready to really take that next step. And I would share that with them too, recognizing that you've started having these value conversations with potential new clients, and by the time you're scheduling these conversations with your current clients, you already feel comfortable doing it. You have some skin in the game, you have some time under your belt. Once again, after the conversation, if it feels like you want to move forward with them, extend an invitation of what it would be like to work together. Discuss the 3 different options of how you have packages, the silver, the gold, and the VIP. And then what you want to do is discuss the best option for them. And once again, as a trusted advisor, this is focusing what's in their best interest as opposed to yours. And that if they are thinking a different package is better than what you think is right for them, I would just put it out there and let them know. There's times that a potential client wants to go with a VIP package and they don't really need that much time with me. And it might be that my gold package is better. And so I actually downsell them as opposed to upselling them. And so you really want to do what's in the best interest of the client as opposed to what's going to give you the most money.
Right. And one of the things that, I heard you talking about is about packages. So how would packages really benefit your clients?
Well, I think the first thing to recognize is that people don't like change. And this is about educating them that you're changing it so that it's in their best interest. They don't have to worry about these surprise bills. They have maybe some different ways to access you. They know exactly what you're going to be doing for them over the course of the next 12 months or so. The other thing that happens with value-based pricing is they're actually prepaying for the month as opposed to paying after the service is done. Because that's when you had the most value, is before you do the work for them. And it actually is a much more cost effective for your business also, because you don't have to ever then negotiate your rates. You don't have to chase down clients because they didn't pay within a certain amount of time. It saves you from having to come up with a new bill that tracks your time because now it's a set fee. You open up more hours to do more work in your business or on your business because you're now doing pricing, which is them paying you before you do the work, as to billing, which is after the fact. And what you really want to do, once again, is recognize, since this is a little bit new for them, they will have questions. Don't let those objections catch you off guard. You want to really remain present and focused when those questions come up. And the way to do that is to be able to confidently respond to objections. I will say that from the conversations you had with potential clients, start listening to the top 5 objections that they have, where they need more information, where they needed to clarify something, and start to write those down, as well as the response that you would like to have when those specific questions come up, because you probably get 5 main ones over and over and over again. And you just want to know how to respond to them so you can do it with confidence and really remain in the position of that trusted advisor, because it's not going to throw you off and you don't see it as the close to a conversation any longer. This is Roger, and Roger tends to work in the real estate industry. When we were first started working together, he was solo. He was doing everything himself. And you can see he has a very, very young family. It was taking time away from his family because he was wearing all the hats in his business. What we started to do is to really shift the focus around so that he was getting some of the work that was below his pay grade off of his plate, hiring people to do that so that he could really free up his time with being the rainmaker. He was marketing, he was having the sales conversations, and he was enrolling new clients. He was also now enrolling them into packages, which meant that he was more profitable. And as a result of that, he was actually able to take a 3-week vacation with his family to Costa Rica, where he hadn't had any time off for the previous 3 years. So I just want to say, not only does it make a difference for your clients, it makes a difference for you also when you shift over to value-based billing and you have the cash flow now to do some of those things for your business that you've been postponing. And we've gone ahead and covered the #1 price mistake, the formula, and how to convert existing clients.
So Lauren, you've really shared a lot. And what do you recommend for listeners who would like to take the next step or would like to move forward or actually just have an opportunity to talk with you?
Well, if you feel that you have gained insights, value, this is something that really appeals to you, you want to figure out how to make it work in your business, and that you're someone who is looking to, you invest in yourself, whether it's time, money, or energy, and this is something that you can really see making a difference to your business, then I set aside 5 complimentary strategy sessions in order to be able to have that conversation with me. And during the conversation, we look at what it is that you want to achieve over the next 12 months, where things are currently in your firm, what you see as some of the challenges as well as the opportunities. So if you feel that this is something that appeals to you, you want to get it done, you've been overthinking it, you've been postponing it, and you just can't do that any longer, then go to the link businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk and answer the questions there to apply for a strategy session so that we can go ahead and get a time to talk set up. So once again, I have 5 slots set aside for complimentary strategy sessions. Go to businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk, fill in the questions, and we will connect on what it would look like to be able to take your business to the next level so that you're able to deeply serve your clients and your business is more prosperous so that it really adds to your quality of life as well as the fact that you make a difference for your clients too. Anyway, thank you so much. I look forward to having a further conversation with you. Warren Fogelman?
Absolutely. Stephen Fogelman, take care.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.